Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week, we're going to go south of the Mason-Dixon line down to Alabama, find ourselves at Huntingdon University of the USA South Football Conference, and head coach Mike Turk. Huntingdon finished ranked number 24 at the end of the season last year. And it's a relatively young program. The first program win came in 2004. The first winning season was in 5. The first playoff appearance was in 2009. First conference championship came in 15. First playoff victory came in 15. They've been a program for 16 seasons in which Coach Turk has gone 110 and 51. So we're going to talk to him about, one, staying in one place, and two, talk about the Division III aspects down in the southern part of the country. But for those of you that are watching us, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button there on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you get your podcast, make sure you hit that button, the little bell notification button. And then make sure you follow us on the social medias. It's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. The only one that's different is the Instagram page. It's dingo_talk. But without further ado, this is Coach Turk. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach of the Huntingdon Hawks, Coach Mike Turk. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So, Coach, we're going to do this the same way we do every week. I'm going to take you all the way back to 1984, and we're going to work our way to today. So my question is, in 1984, it's a pretty big year for you. You end up going to Troy. So let's start there. Why was Troy where you decided to walk on?
Yeah, well, they ran the wishbone in those days, and I was leaving high school about 5'6" and weighed about $140. So I wasn't exactly a prototypical drop back guy,
Yeah.
And but we ran some option in high school, and I felt like that was probably a good fit, for what I was able to do skill wise. And, fortunately they gave me an opportunity, and, I was at the right place at the right time, and things worked out, and had a lot of fun, made a lot of lifelong friends, and won a few ball games along the way.
Well, I was going to say there's two pretty big ball games that were won in those 4 years. But before we jump into that, not only were there two big wins there, but as a freshman, you go into the Gulf South. Did I say that right? Gulf South Conference. Yeah. You were the Gulf South Conference Freshman of the Year. You're three-time all conference player of the year. And then there's two big games, the 1984 national D2 national champion, 1987 D2 national champion. So that's pretty nice to start your career, end your career that way. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that was that's probably the coolest thing about I tell everybody, we won it our freshman year, so we kind of came in with a bang, and then we got to go out with a bang, as well. The special thing about the 84 championship was really the seniors on that team. And the starting quarterback was a senior. Kerry Christensen was his name. Broke a bone in his foot in the third ball game of the year. And so I kind of got shoved into, to playing right away. And the older guys, the guys that had been there, kind of took me under their wing and took care of me and helped me in so many ways. But the reason I guess I feel like it was so special for those guys is because their first 2 years had been pretty rough. Mm-hmm. And after the seniors in 84 went through a coaching change after their sophomore years, and they probably were wondering, if they'd made the right decision on where to go to college. But a guy named Chan Gailey came in and just turned the thing around immediately. Mm-hmm. And in 83, the year before I got there, they improved to, I think, like 7-4, and kind of had a really quick turnaround. And then, of course, the next year we were able to win the whole thing. And it was just, for me, it was really special to have been a part of that for those guys, because they went through a lot, getting beat up their first 2 years and going through the coaching change, and then surviving, the change and the intensity with which those take place, and so if there was ever a group of guys that deserved, to have some success, it was them. And I still talk to a lot of those guys to this day. Very thankful that I was able to be a part of that. And I use it not as a way to brag, but we lost our starting quarterback in the third ball game of the year, and thank Kerry was able to come back at the end of the year. I continued to start. I don't know why, but he without him getting healthy and coming back, we don't win it, because in the national championship game, he really kind of took over, and he led a 2-minute drive that led to a red field goal as time expired for us to win the game. And so, it's kind of a deal where I was able to step in and be there for the guys on the team. And in our game, that happens a lot, not just at the quarterback position, but everywhere. And so I preach that to my guys. You're one play away. If you're a backup, you're one play away from being in a game, and your team is going to need you, right? So you better be prepared for that.
Well, and Coach, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you, how do you apply that situation to, the everyday, but you just answered that. So the other side, so you guys win it in 84. What's the biggest difference between the 84 team and the 87 team?
Well, for me, I'm a freshman in '84. I don't know. I just thought, we're supposed to win the national championship, right? Well, then the next 2 years, of course, we didn't win it, and we didn't even make the playoffs my sophomore year. And but of course, back then, 8 teams in Division II made the playoff field, so it was kind of, you stump your toe, and you're probably done. But we got beat in the semis my junior year, and then coming back for our senior year and being able to win it again was a little different feeling. It was more, I guess, our team. The group of guys that I was seniors with. Whereas my freshman year, it was those seniors team without question. And so. You take a little bit of pride in being able to contribute as a freshman, but also when you get your opportunity as a senior and as one of the leaders in the program, you're able to close the deal again. And so I think that more than anything, that's what it meant to me.
Now, why physical education? Why is that where you went with your degree?
Well, my story is that I wasn't. I was smart enough to know that I wasn't smart enough to be a math major, and I actually started off as a math major, and got pretty well into it. Now, calculus and me did not get along, and so calculus sort of derailed my plans to be a math teacher. And back in those days, you were a double major if you were a secondary education major. And so I had PE as my other major, and I just went to the PE office and made that a comprehensive N through 12 degree, and ended up being just a physical education major. But it's kind of like what I say now. I coach football now. If I didn't coach football, I'd probably mow grass, for a living. That's about the only other thing I'm qualified to do. And I don't think I was qualified to be too many different kinds of majors in college. Certainly we weeded the math part out. And and I ended up in physical education.
Now, when you graduate in 1987, do you take some time off before you jump right into coaching? And
No,
what was?
I jumped right in it. In fact, I did not even, I had not graduated. I was basically a student assistant for a year before I actually finished my undergrad as a education major. I had to do an internship, and so because of my coaching responsibilities, I did not want to do that during spring ball, and I did not want to do that during the fall, obviously.
Yeah.
And we were on quarters back in those days, and so I basically just stalled around and waited until the following winter quarter. It was actually the winter of 1989, I guess, when I actually did my internship and finished my undergrad. But I'd basically already been, coaching for a year at that point. And then straight into grad school, got my master's over the course of the next year and a half. And so spent 3 years as a student assistant / graduate assistant under a guy named Robert Maddox, who was our defensive coordinator in 1987 for that national championship.
Yeah.
Rick Rhodes, the coach for that team, left, and Coach Maddox got the job, and he allowed me to stay on and really gave me my first job in coaching.
Now, Coach, is it difficult to go from being a player to right away being a coach and coaching the guys that you just were strapping the pads on with a year ago?
I will say that's one of the hardest things I had to go through, and to make matters worse, I ended up coaching the quarterback the very first year I was out, and so I'm literally coaching guys that I roomed with on the road, the year before when we traveled. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we had great guys, and the expectations were pretty clear for me, as far as separate myself and all that, made so by my mentors. And so didn't really, it was more of just a struggle of that guy is a friend of mine, but I'm having to get on his butt right now, and so I didn't do a whole lot of that. Really just tried to teach and gosh, as a coach, the first year is a blur. You learn so much, and that's really kind of how it was for me. I did the best I could to teach and coach those guys, but really and truly, man, I was hanging on for dear life.
I can imagine. I can't think of, like, you're 22, 23 years old, and then now you got the khakis and the polo on, as opposed to. So Coach, you spent the better half of 12 years coaching at your alma mater?
I was actually there for 16.
16.
I did the student assistant for a year, GA for 2, and then I worked for a guy named Larry Blakeney for 13 years after that. And Coach Blakeney had come there from Auburn in December of 1990. I had just finished my master's, and I showed up at his press conference with a tie on and a suit. Man, I was begging, and thankfully he saw it in his heart to give me a chance, and so I worked for him for 13 years, and man, what a great run that was. Coach Blakeney oversaw the transition from Division II to Division I AA, which is FCS now, and then ultimately from Division I AA to Division 1A, which we started in 2001, and I was there for 3 of those seasons before I came to Huntingdon in 2004.
And why? What called you to Huntingdon?
Well, Montgomery's my home.
Okay.
First of all, I was born and raised here. Coming back to my hometown was part of it. The opportunity to be a head coach was part of it. Honestly, I went to Troy when it was Division II. We played small college football. That's kind of what I was raised on.
Okay.
as we transitioned up, things changed. It just got different, and not that it's bad. It's just not what I was accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
And probably more than anything, just the opportunity to be a head coach. And the fact that it was in my hometown probably pushed me over the edge. That coupled with the fact that my wife said, "You're going," you know, but I couldn't have asked for a better set of circumstances. A lot of people, when I got here, a lot of people said, I think that's great. I think, that you're a good fit for Huntingdon and all that. And after I'd stayed here a couple of years, I began to realize that Huntingdon was a great fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed getting to know the people here, and the level of ball is so pure and so, as it was intended to be way back when. It just is a lot of fun. The kids that we get to coach every day are, they're awesome. And so I'm very thankful that I decided to do it, and thankful that I've stayed as well.
Well, and so there's a couple of things I want to unpack here. So in 2003 is when the program for football started, correct?
Correct.
So
Correct.
You get there in 2004, which follows the first program victory. By 2005, it's the first winning season in the program. By 2009, you guys are making the playoffs and so on and so forth. So let's talk about that build, because it seems that from 2004, which I don't think you were very far off from a winning season.
We were basically 4-5, I think was our official record. We actually played 10 games. We played one game that did not count.
Okay.
As an official victory in Division III, but we counted it. I can tell you that. We hadn't had many. We sang the fight song after it. So, getting here, was, as I told Coach Blakeney when I was leaving Troy. All I got to do is win one game, man. I'm the winningest coach in school history. And so we started 0-4 in 2004, and gosh, we lost a heartbreaker in our fourth ball game to Thomas Moore, who came down from Kentucky, and they were a really good program. We were not obviously very good. We were getting better, and I think we caught them napping a little bit, and we were in the game, and we ended up in overtime. And we scored a touchdown and kicked our extra point to lead, by 7 in the overtime period. And they scored, and they decided to go for 2. And they ran the old counter boot pass that everybody used to run out of 2 backs,
Yep.
And as the quarterback faked the ball to the tailback to his right and turned back to his left, our outside linebacker was coming off the edge, and he hit the quarterback right in the chin. And he's flying backwards, falling down, and just throws it in the end zone. And their fullback's in the flat, catches it on his knees in the corner of the end zone. And we go from thinking we've won the game to, oh, man, we just lost again, And but fortunately, the next week we were able to win. And and man, when those guys got a taste of that, they didn't want to do anything else. And we ended up winning 4 of our last 5 ball games, and that kind of got us headed in the right direction. Division III football was very unknown in the state of Alabama at that time. There were no. Huntingdon was the only Division III program really in Georgia, Alabama, or Florida.
Wow.
And there was some D3 ball in Tennessee, obviously, with Rhodes and Millsaps and Maryville College, Rhodes and Swanee and Maryville College, and then Mississippi had Millsaps and Mississippi College was Division III at the time. So we had to do a lot of selling. Honestly, people didn't know about Division III, and they kind of looked at you funny when you said you didn't offer, athletic money, and they were like, well, what do you? I mean, if you really want a guy, what can you do? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad I want him. my story to the Rotary Club was always that the guy playing the tuba in the band at halftime may be on more scholarship than my starting quarterback, and that's just fact. It's just reality. But it got us, like I said, it got us going in the right direction. The other big thing was that Huntingdon had not had a football program for so long. It just kind of wasn't on the map, as far as the media and all that. And as we began to play ball and began to win, we started getting some attention, and people started realizing that we weren't an all-girls school anymore, which we hadn't been since World War II, but people didn't know that because it was a female college for so long. And it just kind of snowballed from there. We were able to start to attract some guys that could play, and there's a really good core of guys that was here when we got here that held it together, and gave us the opportunity to accomplish what we did in 04 and 05, certainly, and then from there we just continued to scratch and claw our way, to some kind of semblance of respect,
Yeah, I would say so.
When we golly, the first year and a half I was here, the phone rang off the hook. Everybody wanted to play us, and I don't blame them. We weren't very good, obviously, but
not the same way now.
Well, at some point, after, like I said, after a couple of years, that kind of changed, and so it became a little more difficult for us to schedule. We were independent, so we were essentially trying to find 10 games a year, and we had deals with some of the teams that were fairly close by here in the South, and as we improved and got better and began to win, they didn't want to play anymore, and so that made it increasingly difficult to establish ourselves, because the teams that were willing to play us were really not teams that we were ready to play yet, and so we ended up, in 2007 we played Wisconsin Oshkosh and Wesley College, who, not Wesley's not open anymore, but anybody that follows Division III ball knows that, through that period, 10 years or so, that they were semifinalists just about every year, and so we played them 6 times over that 10-year span from 2006 until about 2013 or 14, I guess 15 maybe. But those guys were different now. They
were different.
Yeah, they weren't like playing, the D3 teams that we were used to playing down south, and so it made it tough. It really did. The biggest probably thing for our program in its history has been us getting into the USA South in 2013. That really, at the point that we were at, we had gotten pretty decent, and man, games were hard to come by, and so by getting into the USA South, that essentially gave us a schedule every year, and it's sustained us really, because it was getting to the point where, when nothing but top 10s will call you back, and they can only play in the first part of September, and maybe sporadically, randomly, throughout the year. You're looking at, and we lived through this back-to-back open weeks, and then you have to play, and it was really tough. It got really hard for us to kind of operate. So getting into the USA South in 2013 was a big deal.
Well, and that has to be interesting for you from both of your job standpoints, because at the time you're also the athletic director. You're the athletic director and the head football coach. So you're scheduling. You're going to do everything for every part of the position. Now,
I will say this: I had an ace, man. I had a guy named Eric Lavanda as my associate AD, and he really, I mean, he pretty well handled most everything. In fact, he's my boss now.
Okay.
He is the athletic director and has been since 2019, I guess. So, which I'm thankful for. You know, and he's done a wonderful job. But he really, you know, without him, I wouldn't have made it.
Coach, let's talk about the 2022 season, 9-2. I believe it starts with a loss, ends with a loss, but in the middle there, some good football.
Yeah.
Some good football was played. So let's talk about how
you go 2 months without losing a football game, man. That's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
So we start with Linfield, who, you know, have a lot of respect for their program and all they've been able to accomplish over the years. They came to our place. It was really supposed to be a part of a 2-year deal. We were supposed to go back to them in 23, or that's what we had been negotiating. We hadn't really finalized anything or signed off on it yet. And I got an opportunity to begin playing Barry first game of the year, but it didn't start until 23. And I can't pass that up. You know, that's a dancing partner for week one forever, you know, potentially. And they're 4 hours from here or less. And so I called, you know, Coach up at Linfield, and I was like, Coach, I'm sorry, man. You know, this may kill our deal, and I don't blame you if it does. But, you know, I said, I can't come back to you in 23. I got to start doing this with these guys, you know, that year. And he understood. And, you know, I think they're isolated out there, and it's very difficult for them to schedule games. So he said, we're still coming. I want to bring my team to Alabama and play. And so he said, I totally understand. You know, I'm not worried about it. I think he appreciated the fact that we had been in the same boat, you know, many times, you know, just struggling to find ball games. And I hated to do that, you know, but honestly, it was something that we had to do. So, but they rolled in here big and pretty as any Linfield team you would imagine. And man, our kids played really hard, and we hung in there with them, you know, and I think our guys took some satisfaction from that. It was a very disappointing loss, and really, you know, a disappointing in that we felt like in the fourth quarter of the game we were getting them. You know, it was hot and humid here that night, and those guys are from the Pacific Northwest. They don't deal with that, and you know, I wanted that game to last as long as I could. You know, so those guys would have to keep breathing that thick air, you know. But we had our chances in the fourth quarter, just didn't get it done, and so we went into the next week, you know, I think a little more focused and a little more motivated. And we're playing our rival in Birmingham. Of course, it's always a big game and a great atmosphere surrounding it. And we were able to go up there and get a big win in dramatic fashion. I think we scored a touchdown with about a minute and a half left, and they drove it, got it about midfield, and we stopped them on fourth down and ended the ball game. So, and that kind of started our streak. And we played Guilford after that, and then got into conference play, and we're able to run the table through the league with several, you know, really competitive games that were close calls. And you know, our league is getting better and better and better each and every year. And you know, for us to go through that schedule last year undefeated in our conference was, to me, one of the biggest accomplishments we've had as a football program. Because you're talking about Belhaven coming in, Maryville had one of its best teams. The Methodist team was a whole lot better, and then, you know, I can't think of a single game that we, you know, just cakewalked through. Every single one of them were challenging, And some of the scores may not look that way because games got away, as the second half wore on. But, like I said, our league is improving and getting better and better each and every year. And so for us to be able to get through that schedule unscathed was something I'm very proud of.
Absolutely. And then, not that anybody wants to walk away with the loss, but then to go into the first round of the playoffs representing the conference, what does that mean for you guys as a program, and what does it set up for the 23 season?
Yeah, well, we were in the league for 2 years, 2013 and 2014. I really felt like we had a team that could have been the conference champion both years. In fact, both of those years we beat the conference champion on the field. But we didn't do what we were supposed to do, in parts of the other season and parts of other games and whatnot. And so we didn't earn the right to represent the league. And it's something that we talked long and hard about during the spring of 2015. And that team was pretty determined that it was gonna accomplish that. And so once I think we did that, once we won the league in 15, that's the expectation now. And it's that way every single year, and hopefully will continue to be that way. Our guys, that they feel like, that they owe it to those guys to continue to do what they started. And so, it gets tougher and more challenging every single year. We were able to win it 15, 16, and 17. 2018, we did not. We started 0-4 that year again, but finished that year in a way that really kind of got some momentum for the 2019 season, and we were able to win it in 19. The spring deal and the spring of 21, because we didn't play in that fall of COVID, was a mess,
Yep.
But we were able to qualify for we did a conference championship game that year. We won a tiebreaker that was pretty controversial with Brevard to get into that tiebreaker, to get into that championship game against Methodist, and we're able to win the football game. So we won that championship as well, and then came back in 22 and 23 and 22 won it. And that sets the table for, like I said, the expectation going into 2023. And our guys are, they understand the deal. They know, what's expected. And I don't think you don't view it as a failure if you don't win the conference. 2018 was not a failure to me. 2018 could have been. If our guys, we're 0-4, they could have packed it, man. And the seniors on that team had won championships their first 3 years, and their attitude could have easily been, hey, we won 3. I mean, we'll just ride out on that. They didn't do that, and that really the way that our team finished that season really created the momentum for the 2019 year, and we've been riding that wave ever since.
Coach, if put us in the room, you're sitting with a recruit. What are the things that you are looking for a Hawk?
Well, I mentioned earlier that the kids that we coach are awesome, and I love that. I love being able to look at moms and dads when they're in here on a recruiting visit and tell them that we have the kind of kids that you want him to be around,
Okay.
That I just think that means an awful lot. And so there's a responsibility that we have as coaches to make sure that we're continuing to bring the right kind of kids here. And that standard, is pretty high. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to turn my back on a kid that needs an opportunity, maybe that hadn't had the benefit of, maybe being raised by, a mother and a father at home or whatever the case may be. But I feel like the culture that we have established here is strong enough that if someone enters it that's not quite, in sync, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to join the party, and jump in and ride with us, or they're going to decide that this is not for them and go somewhere else. So, I don't have really an issue with that at all, because I have seen so many lives changed by the game of football and this program, that I want everyone who I can get my hands on to be a part of it. Why would I not? It's an incredible thing, and the kids that we have here are so much fun to coach and to watch. And this I say this all the time: college is really when you grow up, and you enter here as a young man, but when you leave here, you had better be a grown man, because the real world will kick your teeth in if you're not. And
yes, it will.
And so we are just thankful that the guys that are here, that every year guys step into roles that they've watched the older players. They know what their responsibilities are going to be when they get to that point, and they embrace that opportunity to raise those younger kids. And it's a lot of fun to be around, and certainly something that I'm very proud of. Not that I take credit for it, because this is, it's a team effort here, obviously, with I got two guys here, two coaches here that I hired the very first day I got the job. Charlie Goodyear, who's our strength coach, was our offensive line coach / strength coach for a number of years. But during my time as an AD, we got him transitioned to being the strength coach for our entire athletic department. And so him and Stephen Hicks, who's our defensive coordinator, those two guys have been here, ever since, along with a lot of other guys that have come and gone. And I take a lot of pride in trying to hire former players back here, and have had many guys that have played for us come back here and coach. And I'm most proud of that, because those guys want to come back here and do for someone else what someone else did for them.
Yeah.
That means the world to me. And I'm very thankful that we have that kind of environment here.
Coach, I got two more football questions, and then we got the 5 that have nothing to do with football. So
Okay.
But they're rapid fire.
Those sound like fun.
So my first question, born and raised in Pittsburgh. So from somebody who's from the South, grew up in the South, played ball in the South, what's the difference between Southern ball and Northern ball?
Well, I think a lot depends on what level you're talking about. To me, when I watch the Division I teams from up north, they have some guys that can run. When I watch a team from the South, they have a lot of guys that can run. I remember, one year, Ohio State was playing someone, and they had a really fast receiver that returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And he was fast.
I know what game you're talking about.
You remember? I can't remember who they were playing.
Jr. was the return man.
Okay.
Florida.
He tore his knee up, and they were playing Florida. He tore his knee up celebrating the touchdown, I think, and was unable to play after that. And they didn't have anybody else that could run with Florida.
No.
And I also remember the quarterback from Ohio State early in the game, first, second possession, scrambling, and one of the defensive linemen catching him and tackling him. And I went, uh-oh, they might be in trouble here. And so that to me, that's the difference. They're both very physical. The teams up north pride themselves on physicality and all that. But gosh, the teams down south are just as physical as the day is long. But some of their bigger guys are some of the faster players on the field as well.
Yeah.
When you get down to the Division III level, the challenges that we have in the South, I think, are mainly that Division III ball is a lot more established up there in the northern area. In the state of Ohio, they have like 23 football teams that play Division III football. In Wisconsin, I mean, those are public schools, and there's not a whole lot in between Wisconsin and them, and so if you don't go to UW and play, you're probably going to one of the D3s that play. And man, you talking about we always, when we line up against those guys, it's always like, oh gosh, they're just so massive, and of course they got guys that can run too. And so I think as time goes by and Division III ball begins to gain popularity in the South, my hope is that we begin to close that gap. But it's they're few and far between the playoff runs that have been made by teams from the Southeast, and you would think the SEC is the leader at Division I level, but in Division III ball we got some ground to make up for sure.
Now, Coach, you played at Division II. You watched your program go from Division II to Division 1A to now Division I. You're coaching at a Division III school. What is now, and I've heard from other coaches that I've had on the program, you can look at the wide receivers, you can look at the quarterbacks. Everybody can be similar in that boat. When you go to the beef in the middle, that's where you notice the difference. Is that the biggest difference between D3 and the rest?
There is really there's a difference at every position. It's just not as noticeable. We may have a linebacker that's as big as the guy. In fact, we had a linebacker. Troy had, the all-time leading tackler in the history of college football, playing for him. The guy's 5'9". Now he's a full-grown man. He's going to play in Canada, I think, Carlton Marshall. But we had guys that probably would, if you stood those two guys beside each other and said, which one of these guys is D1, you may have a hard time.
Yeah.
And the skill guys are kind of the same way. But when you get in the trenches down there now, that's different. Those guys are, everybody's 300 across the board now, on offense, and we're just not that. But I'll say when we go to play Wisconsin Oshkosh or Mary Hardin Baylor or even Linfield, that was the biggest difference, or is the biggest difference in their guys and our guys. We hang in there skill wise with them, but in the trenches, man, it's tough on us because they're just so big and so physical.
All right, Coach. So we've made it to the rapid fire section. There's 4, 5, 6 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Probably the Keys, because the weather is incredible.
Like that. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
To be humble. Get over yourself, man. I mean, it's everybody's got some good characteristics, and everybody's got things they're ashamed of. So, just be humble and do your job.
If you weren't coaching football, what would you be doing and why?
I'd be mowing grass because that's all I'm qualified to do. I said that earlier, and I'll stand by it.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Well, I've been called everything but tall.
I don't get that much either.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably that that I do have a good head on my shoulders. That I'm not too caught up in what all's going on. I don't have a very big ego. Just happy to come to work every day, and as long as my key still works, I'm good.
And on the other side of the compliment, what's the best insult you've ever received?
Oh man.
I'd imagine as a coach, you've heard some good ones yelled from the stands.
Some of the best ones I probably haven't got to hear. I mean, the people in the stands probably have said some things that were pretty good that I've missed. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I should have got a heads up on that, man. I couldn't give thought, but nothing jumps out at me really. Thankfully.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then the last question, we wrap it up every week this way. Coach, was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
You really, I thought you did a wonderful job asking questions. You obviously did a lot of research because you knew things about me that most people don't know, which is to your credit for sure.
Thank you.
No, not really. I mean, I expected you told me kind of what we were going to do today, and so I kind of expected you to go through the early days at Troy, and work our way through the time that we've had here. And I guess maybe if one of the things I get asked a lot is why have you stayed there for 20 years? Mm-hmm. And the reality is why does one leave a job to take another one? Because it's a better job, right?
And
I've never been offered a job better than this one, and I've been offered other jobs before, but not one that I consider to be better than this. When it comes to family and just location and everything else. This has been a blessing for me, and it's just been an incredible amount of time that we spent here. It's been awesome, made some great friends, and look forward to enjoying many more years of that.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us. Best of luck next year. Or this year. We're 2023. Best of luck this year, not next year. Well, next year too, but let's get through this season first.
Yeah, first things first, right?
Yeah. For those of you sticking around, you know what comes up next. It's the editorial with Serenity Brown. This has been Coach Mike Turk, the head football coach of the Huntingdon Hawks of the USA South. I want to make sure I got the conference in. And I did forget to mention this at the beginning of the program. The Hawks last year did finish the season ranked 24th in the nation. So, Coach, congratulations on that. And hopefully we're gonna keep an eye on that D3.com. Let's see you moving up the ladder.
Hey, thank you, man. Still scratching and clawing every day.
Absolutely. We'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
What's going on, Chuckleheads, and welcome back. This is Overtime. I am Carly Williamino. That's Serenity Brown. That's who the Overtime's with. We just finished with Coach Mike Turk of Huntingdon. I want to make sure we get the Huntingdon. It just makes me think that I'm supposed to say a T. I don't know why, but what'd you think?
I think it was a good episode. I like this one.
He's one of those guys. I don't know if it's the Southern draw or he's just got an old school football feel. He's just like a.
I don't necessarily know what that means, but we'll go with it.
I find it amazing that they're as young of a program as they are. They've only had one losing season since 2005. They finished last year 24th in the country. They start this year just outside of the top 25. They are receiving votes. I think it's a little bit of I'm sure there's some bulletin board material going on right now during camp that, they don't think you're good enough, etc. This might be a team that people should keep an eye on. For those of you that are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, we appreciate all of you. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you hit the like and subscribe button. If you're on Spotify or the other podcast platforms, you hit the little notification bell so that you can keep up. And then make sure you follow us on the social medias, which are Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. The only one that's different is Instagram. It's dingo_talk. So I think we have some housekeeping to do. Starting with week 1, Serenity and I will be picking, since we can't go to the games, we wanted to find a way to incorporate 10 games a year, or 10 games throughout the season. So we're going to do 10 games a week. We're going to pick 10 games. So we're going to keep track of who picks the most right, and this is kind of
like who we think is gonna win.
Yeah, that's what that means. We're gonna pick them.
I was just explaining it because you didn't explain it very well.
She doesn't know football, and I know football, so that's kind of the gist of why this is going to be a fun little thing.
I hope I beat you for that fact alone.
You probably will, and that's okay, because we're too broke to bet. So, and like, we're in it together. So, like, what? My money is your money, and your money is your money. So, like,
yeah.
So I got a little bit of a rant this week. A little rant. So I cut grass, and I handle cleaning up
the dog parks.
Dog fecal matter.
Right way to put that.
And my question is, that's what I do, in my day-to-day when I'm not interviewing Division III football coaches. My question is, why would you own a dog and take said dog outside to an area? Like, I get it if you're in an area and you forgot a garbage bag or you forgot a grocery bag or whatever it is. But, like, I work at a place where there's a dog station every 15 feet with dog bags provided and trash bags provided to put said dog. I don't understand why you have a pet and you just think that it's okay to let it go to the bathroom, and then like you don't have to clean up after it because it's some like, is that an entitlement thing, or like am I doing like the old man get off my yard thing? Like, there's just a lot of, I don't understand that. Like, isn't that part of being a pet owner, is that you're supposed to like clean up after the dog?
Especially in an apartment complex, yes.
Public place where people, because like poop is bad. Everybody poops. It's good. Poop is good, but like poop is bad.
I don't necessarily think that we should be talking about poop on your DingoTalk.
My show. That's what I needed to rant
That's
about
what
it.
you needed to talk
Needed
about.
to rant about it. Would you rather me throw you a random three that you were not prepared for, and for you to go, don't put me on the spot?
Not really.
All right. Well, then you got the rant. So, do you have anything that you would like to rant about? Anything particular that is on your mind, or no, nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna come back next week.
Sounds good to me.
I would assume we're gonna come back next week.
Yeah.
I hope they come back next week.
Yeah.
You think?
Hopefully.
All right.
I hope they're watching it now.
I think we're going to Wisconsin next week. Don't you know?
I believe it is.
Is that what they do out there? Don't you know? No?
That's
Don't you know?
Canada?
They're the middle of the country to me, of the United States. It seems like all those Midwestern states, they're kind of...
Maybe don't generalize.
They're very nice people. The Canadians are very nice. The Canadians have a particular accent. Midwestern people have a particular vernacular that they use. You see the words that they use? It was a good word.
Throwing out big words.
You like that? No, I don't think it was that big of a word, but SAT word of the day. So, all right, Chuckheads. Well, we'll be back next week. I believe we're going to Wisconsin. We're either going to Wisconsin or Minnesota, but we will be in the Midwest. So, yeah.
Minnesota. That's how they say that.
That's generalization. They don't all say that. We'll see you next week, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.